nothing's ever easy, I guess.
It's true. But do you feel like you have to sacrifice most of your childhood because you are chasing this dream of yours?
Sacrifice is a big word because then you're having fun with it, you know.
I gotta ask you, what is racing to you? What does it mean to you?
Racing for me is
like, how do you cope with your nervousness? Hai Dashers, kembali lagi di Easy Pace Podcast dari Dashport. Dan hari ini kita akan membicarakan satu topik yang it's about cars, it's about engine. But no, we're not gonna talk about the cars or engine. We're gonna talk about the man behind it. Boleh dong kita sama-sama dulu, Sean Gelal. Halo, thank you for coming today.
Sama-sama loh, udah diundang.
Seru banget loh, hari ini kita akan agak mengkupas tentang kamu dan rutinitas kamu ya.
Iya, silahkan.
Jadi kita langsung aja.
Aduh, jangan dong yang ini malu.
Let's dive in.
Jangan yang ini.
To his humble. Are you comfortable enough if we talk about your achievements? Kayak gitu apa nggak?
Enggak,
karena
malu. Jangan.
Biar Dashers tahu nih. Oke. I'm gonna rephrase the question.
Iya.
Tapi intinya, Sean ini sudah banyak sekali mendapatkan penghargaan, awards, and also di dunia perbalapan. Pokoknya everyone knows you. But I gotta ask you, berarti kamu kan mulai journey ini cukup muda ya?
Yeah.
Like how old when you first start your racing journey?
Jadi aku mulainya tuh dulu, jadi ayah saya kan dulu, saya kaku banget ya, ayah gue dulu rally juga, rally nasional. Jadi pas dari kecil tuh selalu diajak-ajak kan. Jadi habis itu kayak akhirnya one day, Dad mau nyoba dong gitu kan. Nah, ya udah, jadi abis itu nyoba di pas dia kayak lagi latihan atau apa duduk sebelahnya dan lain-lain gitu. Habis itu kalau mulai serius terjun di go-kartnya mungkin nyoba-nyoba awal kan umur kayak 8-9 gitu kan.
8-9 tahun.
Iya, tapi habis itu mulai 10 tahun baru mulai kayak go-kart yang
ikutan lomba
dan
gitu.
yang lebih serius lah gitu.
Tapi emang dari dulu lo udah tahu kayak dari diri lo nih, gue suka banget mobil gitu. Gue suka banget yang cepat, yang lomba gitu.
Maksudnya kan emang itu juga yang paling terekspos juga kan. Ya mungkin dulu kan juga kayak sosok bokap itu kan yang paling kita ngikutin juga kan.
Jadi you look up to him lah.
Jadi sebagai inspiration gitu lah. Jadi ya gitu sih ceritanya.
Oh, I see. 8 sampai dengan 10 tahun berarti itu like your first.
And then habis itu kan then it was yang kayak jatuhnya ke junior gitu kan.
I gotta ask you, what is racing to you? What does it mean to you? Kayak kalau
racing for me is my passion, is my I would say kayak obsession juga gitu. Sih. I mean it's part of my life since I was 8. You know, jadi it's everything I know and everything I do. Dan it's my passion. I love it. Jadi yang ngikutin semuanya gitu sih. I know sometimes kalau lihat kayak social media aku kayak I don't show it gitu. Tapi kayak
your social media is very fun. Like we love your content for sure. Tapi I gotta ask you, kan kamu mulai muda banget nih. Berarti ada certain type of routine yang kamu dari kecil sampai besar lakukan, dan ada certain amount of disiplin yang harus kamu jaga juga kan. Like do you have any physique training or apa gitu yang?
Tapi it's like any other sport. I think like any other sport juga perlu disiplin dari awal kan. I think that's what great about sport gitu ya. I think maksudnya even if you take it up as a hobby, I think kalau dari kecil itu it teaches you discipline, it teaches you never to give up, it teaches you all the core discipline, rutinitas, and not everything is given juga kan. Kayak in sports, if you compete whether it's 5 people, 10 people atau kayak 10,000 people, in the end of the day it's you versus you, and it's you versus them gitu. Nothing else yang bisa lo emang you have to earn it yourself gitu kan. Jadi in the end of the day it teaches you a lot gitu. Tapi kalau kita bawain kayak yang lain rutinitas pasti ya akhirnya in any sport there's some level of fitness that you need to achieve or you need to maintain gitu kan, to be fit for whatever sport you do.
Kayak berarti rutinitas yang kamu punya untuk menjaga you being fit, because you have to stay like it's endurance race, right? You have to stay up to 6 to 24 hours, no?
Yeah, I have like 2 24-hour races a year, but but in the end, kalau aku rutinitas tuh, I think throughout, kalau ngomongin balap in general ya, kayak racing is, especially during my early parts of my career gitu, yang dari Formula 3, Formula 2, then some bits of Formula 1. To be honest, also every person is different. So like I mean, like height, length, and everything is a bit different. So when you drive, you use technically your muscles a bit differently juga gitu. I'll show you an example later. Tapi misalnya kayak in general, you use a lot your core, your lower back, because kayak also like when you brake, technically you're not pushing like a normal brake pedal kayak di mobil biasa yang ada ABS. It's like straight away. So how much pressure you can put, because also how much downforce is in the car. It's basically you push around, let's say, around like 100 kilos gitu kan. Peak pressure gitu. So it's a lot of, and then kita ngomongin kayak, I think like during peak downforce gitu, you go to around 5 to 6 G. So it's pushing you a lot juga. Jadi so like core tight, lower back, obviously you're in a position like that. So it's very low. And obviously the part that is not strapped on is your neck. So again, your neck and your traps gitu, it has to be really strong to withstand the G, right?
Like I saw one of the athlete kayak lagi latihan. Yang apa namanya, lehernya gitu ya. Did you went through that as well?
For sure.
Man.
Yeah, basically went through that a lot. Must say, I think my neck's a bit smaller now. Because like the cars I drive now is not as big as it was in Formula 1. But yeah, you usually have massive necks, and beda-beda juga misalnya karena gue tangannya panjang, so I use less of my, I don't know, let's say like biceps or whatever, or forearms, compared to like someone who's shorter, but I use more like, let's say, my shoulders because I push it like that. So it's a bit different, but in the end, also like even in like for sprint races that I did before, because you're still in the car for like an hour and a half or more. And in the end, let's say if your cardio endurance is capable of doing that, then obviously your focus is more, right? So you have more mental focus on focusing on other things, instead of, if you're tired, obviously you're more prone to making mistakes or gitu kan. Jadi so it's a balance of strength and a bit of endurance training.
I see. So like pre-race, what is the fitness preparation looks like? Like how much do you train? Like is it like 3 times to 4 times a week, or is it like every day until it's race day?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
For me, I train more when I'm not going to the race. So let's say in a race weekend, let's say the last time I trained would be around like Wednesday, because also like Thursday you're on track, you do a lot of like media, track walk, and debrief with the team and everything, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is like race weekend, like qualifying race, free practice gitu kan. So I usually don't do more training except for like mobility, warm up gitu throughout the day. Tapi I don't do it. Some people still run in the morning, some people do fitness in the morning. I don't, but I do more pas lagi nggak race weekend lah gitu. So if there's a break, usually a week is around like, let's say 5 to 6 times a week.
I see.
Or more or less gitu.
Yeah, it's like almost 90% of your time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've mentioned before that you have entered 2 24 hours race. Is it on the World Endurance Championship?
Yeah, so the World Endurance Championship has 8 rounds. And one of them is Le Mans 24 hours. The rest is like a 6-hour or 8-hour endurance races. But then you have like one-off races like 24 hours of Spa or 24 hours of Dubai atau apa gitu yang out of the championship, which is, but sometimes you also compete there gitu.
Ini aku penasaran banget. 24 hours of racing. How does it feels like to be in the
I'm
same
not there
position?
For 24. But it's
like quite a long time.
Yeah, it's quite a long time. It's like you drive around 8 because it's divided by 3 drivers, right? So I drive around a total of like 8 to 9, depending on strategy and everything. And the rule is each driver cannot go more than 4 hours in a 6-hour period.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So like in a 6-hour period, he needs to maximum of only 4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah. So yeah, it's long. Tapi I think adrenaline, everything.
Your first time doing it, did you have like the race jitters? Like how did you feel? Did you felt nervous at all?
My first Le Mans 24?
Yeah.
So I was quite lucky. My first Le Mans 24 was COVID year.
Oh.
So because it was COVID year, penontonnya tuh nggak banyak banget gitu.
Itu ngefek juga ya ke
because
gitu.
Because I started that race and then the next year I didn't start that race, and it was full. It was like 400,000 people or like some crazy number, and the atmosphere is unbelievable. But because if you drive, you don't really realize that gitu kan. So now it's for sure pasti I think everyone, or at least I still, or every athlete I think still has pre-race or pre-match jitters. But I think it's more like because you want to perform.
You have to perform.
Yeah, like I'm nervous because I want to perform instead of like I'm nervous because, or it depends on the person ya, beda-beda semua orang kan. Ada yang masih muntah sebelum itu, beda-beda kan gitu.
Like how do you cope with your nervousness?
I joke a lot.
Okay, so, that's your coping mechanism.
Yeah, that's
you
my
joke
coping
a lot.
But throughout my career, I've done so many different things, so many theories. But in the end, everyone's different, and semua orang ada caranya caranya masing-masing gitu. Ada yang kayak harus zone in pakai musik. Tapi to be honest, for me, it depends on my mood on that day. You know, if I'm too hyped, then I need to calm down a bit. If I'm too calm, then I need to hype myself a bit. So it really depends on the mood on that day.
Do you have like a certain ritual that you do? Like,
so I was very kayak ritual centric. Gue dulu tuh kayak ritual banget. Gue dulu tuh kayak superstitious banget. Dulu tuh sampai kayak I have celana dalam untuk kayak Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or I have like.
Itu kayak sports ritual yang kayak orang-orang yang melakukan in any sport kan.
So like misalnya kayak harus kanan dulu sebelum kiri atau dengan semuanya. But to be honest, at 2021 I stopped everything. So I stop everything because again beda-beda orang. Tapi jadinya akhirnya kayak I said like nah fuck that. Like no more rituals, no more nothing. Like I do whatever I want. So sometimes I could sometimes not shower in the morning or whatever gitu.
And then you just go do it. You just perform.
Yeah, or because for me at least it worked for me.
Yeah.
Or else kayak status salah dikit, and I was like, you know. Tapi obviously rutin ada ya, kayak misalnya warm up rutin atau kayak I have my coffee before, kayak I want to have breakfast at this time. Gitu semua ada ya, tapi maksudnya nggak ada specific route kayak
yang kayak superstitious gitu, banget gitu nggak? I see.
Mungkin like just like ada kayak jongkokan sebelum masuk kayak things like that, tapi enggak.
Do you do a lot of like breath work exercise or
no? I went through it all, but in the end I don't.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, or it depends on if I do. It's more like the night of like if it's more like meditating or manifesting the thing.
Yeah,
I don't do it before I jump in. It doesn't work for me. So I do it more like the night before or like during. Misalnya the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before the race weekend, I do it. Tapi kalau kayak sebelum masuk mobil atau sebelum aku itu udah nggak lagi.
I see.
I like to be as flowing as neutral as possible.
You just go with it. Go with the flow.
Soalnya it doesn't work on it. Soalnya gue orangnya kayak langsung lebih both ways, you know. If I do it, then it's too much the other way, so it doesn't work for me.
I see. Well, okay, talking about let's circle back to.
I went through it all because like so lewat a lot of trial and error, a lot of process.
It's a very long process. Wait, so like how many years have you been doing this? I'm not gonna mention his age, no. But like career-wise, he's very young. Dia Shan tuh muda banget loh.
Tapi dulu tuh gue selalu yang paling muda kan. Jadi sekarang gue udah kayak almost veteran gitu. Gue kayak gue udah tua banget.
Tapi lo masih di bawah 30.
Iya.
He's still 27 years young. See, I'm mentioning his age right now. Lo masih umur 27 nih. Lo kan berarti udah dari umur let's say 8 tahun ya. Lo udah.
Nggak lah, tapi let's say bener-bener kayak
bener-bener into itu berarti itu
bener-bener into itu kan kalau udah mulai kayak keluar negeri untuk event gitu kan.
Yang serius banget nih.
Yang umur 14 lah.
14 berarti lo udah 13 tahun melakukan ini gitu loh.
Iya udah lama juga.
Pernah gak sih di tengah-tengah proses antara latihan atau you go to races and then you lose whatever and then lo ngerasa kayak I think this is not for me, atau kayak ada momen jenuh gitu? Pernah gak lo rasain?
For sure. I was in a dark spot a lot of times actually. Dark spot around like 2017 was really bad.
2017, okay.
2020 was the worst for me.
Because it was COVID too, right? 2020.
Yeah, but it was. Tapi aku tuh frustrasi. Jadi gini, sebenarnya kan sebagai atlet sebagai atlet, apalagi mayoritas dari atlet di Indonesia, kecuali badminton. Level of competition here or infrastructure of level of competition here is not a lot. Satu, nggak banyak, dan dua, level of competition juga nggak tinggi.
We're very well aware of that.
So for example, like just giving you an explanation gitu, kayak misalnya gue dari go-kart, we have Kejurnas, let's say 6 to 8 races a year, and we're racing the same 15 people all over the time, right? And majority of it cuma di Sentul, let's say, one circuit or two max, gitu. Surabaya gitu. And you compare that to, let's say, you don't have to take a max, like you take any other European driver or Japanese even. Kayak you race misalnya di Italia aja, di satu kota, misalnya dekat Milan sama di dekat Roma aja, you meet 40 different people from that area. So and then when you go there, you're not the quickest because people udah latihan di sana. So and then you need to adapt and to be there. So then you're always trying to be better and better and better. That's why mentalnya juga, karena banyak orang merucut ke sana, sikut-sikutan semua kan kepingin gitu kan. So
and everyone is very good at what they're doing.
Obviously. Misalnya kan ya mereka soalnya kan sama aja, kayak misalnya orang ke Sentul juga belum tentu menang kan. Gitu. Misalnya orang Eropa pun gitu. Tapi masalahnya kan mereka ke environment itu wherever they go, while we only have one, for example, right? So then like kalau gue udah paling jago ya kan, and then like what else? I don't know what I need to do more. But if you learn there, you learn something else different every time. Anyways, the biggest problem is when you reach to like a Formula 3, obviously, and there's expectations of misalnya dari sponsor, dari media, dari keluarga, dari semuanya kan. Oh, you made yang nggak usah Formula 3 juga deh, misalnya orang seperti Moto3 gitu misalnya, ya kan masuk
ada certain expectations lah.
You have there. Obviously, I think we have all the talent in the world. That's why sometimes you can have top 3 qualifying, you can have pole positions, or you can have even a podium finish either. But to be consistent and to be racing at the level, you can't because you haven't went through the experience. For example, you doing 8 races a year compared to you doing 18 races a year or 20 races a year, with the level of competition being higher, is so much more gitu kan. So then you need to tetap, kayak kita masih harus kayak ngelewatin itu semua, harus ngelewatin crash, harus ngelewatin balapan yang misalnya kita nggak ngerti dengan changeable conditions or whatever it is gitu. And in the end of the day, first year-nya itu kepake untuk itu. Tapi obviously kan you're expected to do so much more. So then the frustration goes to kayak, I need to perform, but I'm not performing, and then you don't trust the process of learning, right? Jadi lo kayak nyari hasil. Soalnya kan yang takaran sport adalah hasil. Betul. Sadly gitu kan. It's not art, like bagus jelek itu opini atau objektif gitu. Subjektif gitu. So jadi sadly that's the problem, and in the end ada yang frustrasi, obviously frustrasi. Why is it always happening? And then sometimes you can have DNFs and things like that. So.
How did you handle your bubble of frustration?
Well, I couldn't. That's why I didn't make it to Formula 1. Let's be honest. No, but I matured late. So I matured after that. I learned how to do it. I learned how to manage my bubble of myself. And I went through a lot of bad things and went through a lot of, but
you went through a lot.
In the end, the circle of people around me, my close friends, some of my family are helped me through a lot in that, helped me understand a lot in that, and in the end, alhamdulillah, you can recover from all those things and be where I am today. Gitu. Tapi nothing's ever easy, I guess.
It's true. But do you feel like you have to sacrifice most of your childhood because you are chasing this dream of yours?
Sacrifice is a big word because then you're having fun with it,
I mean, you're having fun with it, so it doesn't feel like you're letting go.
It's not really sacrifice, I'm guessing. But like, did I miss some of my childhood? Yes. But like, in the end, did I gain something else from it? Of course. Gitu kan. Jadi,
a lot.
I think there's a lot of other people that want to be in my position that in the end they can't. Gitu. So would I...
You would not trade it
for anything. No, for sure.
Sure. Okay, jadi sekarang nanti kita akan lanjut lagi ngobrol. Tapi sekarang kita mau segmen water break dulu. I'm gonna ask him rapid questions.
Sorry, sebelum water break, ini idola gue udah. Bisa lihat ya?
Ini boleh dimasukin ke sini nanti.
Bentar harus di zoom ya.
Ini adalah idola Sean Gelal.
Gila.
You can see.
Mas Alit.
Lo kan lo harus ikutan Ironman juga deh kayaknya.
It's not my thing.
I think you're fit enough to do it.
It's not my thing. It's not my thing.
Tapi lo lari juga kan?
Lari tapi like long distance. Did an Ironman, dude. Okay, I don't know what he was going through, but I am not there yet.
I see.
Huh?
Apa? Oh, 6-star
Dia
juga.
juga 6-star marathon, major marathons.
Man, our boss is the
Iya.
coolest. Okay,
All under the age of 40.
All under the age of 40. You
Right?
still got time, man. You're 27.
Yeah.
In 30, you might just want to suddenly kayak,
Yeah.
gue mau Iron Man.
Maybe have a midlife crisis. No, I'm kidding. You
Oh my
didn't
God.
have that.
No.
Just a couple. No.
Okay, jadi sekarang kita bakal minum dulu. And then we're gonna go ask Sean rapid questions. Oke, jadi dalam rapid questions ini aku akan nanya ke Sean a few
Yeah.
gitulah. Rapid questions.
Okay.
Okay, let's go. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Street circuit or traditional racetrack?
Street.
High downforce or high speed?
High speed.
Qualifying or race day?
I'm bad at qualifying race day.
Closed cockpit or open cockpit?
Well, now I'm driving close, so close.
Close. Okay. Sprint race or endurance race?
Endurance races now are like sprint races anyway, so let's say endurance.
It's pretty much the same, no?
Yeah, similar.
Okay. Engine power or aerodynamic?
I'm like a bit of aero.
Okay. Wet tires or slick tires?
Oh, slicks.
Slick. What's the difference though? Tell me. I'm like,
Ya kalau hujan kan
itu
basah.
wet.
Jadi perlu airnya ngelewatin gitu kan.
Oh,
Kalau enggak
okay.
you'll aquaplane, you have grip.
That's what you
So
call
that's why you have the groove. Because ban kering kita kan bukan ban kering kayak di jalanan gitu.
Oh, okay.
Soalnya ban kering jalanan kita kan itu ban di jalanan itu kan kita all rounder gitu kan. Jadi kalau hujan ya airnya lewat. Tapi obviously you lose because there's less surface in the contact patch with the ground. Then you have less grip technically, right? So
I see.
yeah, so and then banyak lah, then it creates more heat, blah, 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 so then it's less. Tapi karena jadi our go-to tire is a slick tire because it has the most contact patch, giving you the more grip technically for when it's dry. Tapi when it's wet, ban itu kan ya karena hujan kan jatuhnya ada air. Nah, pas air itu kan airnya itu nggak bisa kemana-mana. Jadi ya mobilnya kan kayak aquaplaning gitu, kayak naik boat gitu lah jatuhnya kan. Nah tapi kalau ada groove-nya itu terus airnya keluar kan itu berarti dia tetap kayak ban biasa lah.
Gila, gue menyimak dengan seksama banget lah. Tadi dijelasin sama Sean. Thank you for the explanations.
Gue biasanya nggak pernah explain kayak gini loh. Jadi gue cerita, gue tuh kalau di Jakarta tuh sebenarnya nggak pernah ngomongin balap.
Why?
Karena males.
Because banyak yang nanya ke lo juga.
Nah, soalnya biasa yang nanya ya biasanya tuh journalism di Indo tuh kayak top speednya berapa ya?
Sabar.
Jadi gue kan kayak
sabar.
just like biasanya, tapi sekarang udah jauh lebih bagus. Sekarang kan mungkin banyak fans yang lebih banyak, jadi journalism juga naik.
Jadi risetnya sudah lebih jauh ketika mau nanya ke lo gitu kan. Maksudnya journalism in Indonesia.
I'm not talking about kayak these types of podcasts. I'm talking about like news, like sports news
I
gitu kan.
got you, bro.
Ngerti kan?
We got you.
Yeah.
It's okay. Kembali ke perjalanan karir Sean. Boleh gak sih diceritain dikit deh ke kita kayak keputusan untuk meninggalkan open wheel racing tuh karena apa? Formula 2.
Because I didn't make it.
But like, what was it like?
No. It's basically kan obviously everyone's dream was to go to Formula 1.
Yeah.
Every driver's dream. And I think my biggest year was obviously 2018, 2019.
Yeah. Wait, how old were you? 2018, 2019, 20?
I don't want to think about it.
20 something.
I was still young.
Yeah, very young. That's what I'm. Yeah.
Obviously, 2018 was the best year for me.
Yeah.
Because I was still like reserved for Toro Rosso and I had a couple of podiums that year. But then in the end of the season, I had a lot of DNFs. I wasn't as consistent, and I think that kind of blew my chance to go to Formula 1. And 2019 was. There was a rule change and our team didn't perform as well.
Oh, okay.
So that, and there was a lot of unfortunate DNFs, like my DRS stuck open and stuff like that. So in the end, like we didn't have the result we wanted. And then 2020, the COVID year, so I moved teams again, and preseason testing everything was good. Then it stopped, and then. So
you went through a lot.
So the season stopped and then it continued June. But the cars stayed in the container for 4 months.
Okay.
And in the heat in I think it was Bahrain, and then the first couple of races actually was in Austria, and the first four, you have 4 races in Austria, okay, back to back, and basically the car had issues. It was like saluran issues or whatever, so it was like hydraulic pressure issues, and we couldn't find the problem until like the 7th race. So at Formula 2 each weekend has 2 races, right? So out of the 10 races, I only finished 3.
All right. And it's because due to technical issues.
The same technical issue.
Right.
So in the 11 and in Formula 2, the rule was you can't change the engine until they find something specifically wrong with it. So, but you can't prove it. So in the end, we broke the engine, and then we can get a new engine, and then it worked, and then it only worked in Barcelona, which was the 11th race, and then in the 11th race, I broke my back. So it was just a really bad year for me.
You broke your back?
Yeah.
How?
So cars are supposed to crash forward or backwards. But somehow I went airborne, and this, they don't like this type of impact. And this type of impact, it was actually quite high G, and then because you sit like this, and then I broke my back.
Oh my god.
And then I was sidelined for like 3 months, and then I came back and I had issues. Anyways, but that year was my make it or break it year kind of to Formula 1. And it was my 5th year in Formula 2 as well. So it was kind of long, and technically you don't really... Formula 2 back then wasn't a Formula 2 now, where you kind of like can stay there all your life kind of thing.
Jadi Formula 2 is like a stepping point.
Yeah, it's a stepping stone. But like now there's a couple of drivers that are just there because like, like they have the sponsors, they want to stay in that position, and you can't. So it's fine. But back, like, it was more rare to have those kinds of situations. Also because now the sport is bigger, so there's that opportunity. But yeah, so then my career, obviously, outside Formula 1, there's a big spectrum of racing, like endurance racing, like Formula E, like IndyCar, NASCAR, whatever, right? So, and both really big and paid by manufacturers. And at that time, our biggest opportunity was either Formula E or WEC, or World Endurance Championship. And then we decided to go in WEC because it was the better opportunity for me.
Okay.
And also the racing was better, and obviously I wanted to race Le Mans 24. And in the end, that was the path we went.
That's really cool. I gotta ask you, like, how's life at WEC? Ya kan, bener kan ya?
Yeah.
World WEC compared to Formula 2. Well, the environment tuh sebeda apa gitu?
It's way better because Formula 2, most of the drivers there are fighting for a seat to Formula 1.
Okay.
And they're all very young, all very ambitious, but dumb, right? Technically, gitu kan. And it's very like, it's like eat or be eaten kind of thing, right? So it's like the vibe is just wrong, and like because it's a one-make championship, there's different teams running it, but there's a one-make like one chassis, one ito. So like the championship has too much control over everything,
Okay.
I don't want to go into the politics. It's
there.
It's kind of that's kind of it. While like obviously in the World Endurance Championship in WEC, it's big manufacturers. There's like 13 manufacturers this year. Obviously the drivers are all very mature and developed already because they're earning from that. Is their life juga, and so it's just it's more. The fans and everything are more pure motorsport fans, It's like passed on from generations. It's like they know what they're talking about. Well, if you see now in Formula 1, basically they're just there for the show. Some even ask them what is qualifying, they don't even know. You know what I mean? Like they love the show. Like it's good. It's good for the sport, but like let's say 30% are real motorsport fans, while like they are hardcore motorsport fans. And I don't know, like I think I was growing up like watching or having the passion of loving racing instead of just the show. And in the end, like they're so passionate, and in the end the fans push you through a lot of things juga gitu akhirnya. They follow their races, they follow a lot of just passionate things, like they Yeah, like they
there's
collect
more
a lot of
passion
everything.
there.
Yeah. It's real, you know.
I see,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and talking about you, lo tuh sempat jadi teammate-nya Valentino Rossi juga.
I'm still his teammate.
He's still his teammate.
Well, I was
Still
one
his
car with him
teammate.
as a teammate driving together because in endurance races kind of it's 3 or sometimes 4 drivers.
Yeah.
This year I'm his teammate, but in a different car. So I'm kind of like against him, but like in one team. So like you work together, kind of thing.
But like
you
you're
work
still
against.
competing time wise, right?
Yeah.
I see. So like, how does it feel to be able to work with a living legend from the motorsport?
I mean, I keep telling everyone like he's a legend. It's weird now that it's just normal, you know, like it's normal, but it's never normal actually. His work ethic being like, I don't know, 43, 44 years old now.
Whoa.
I mean, like put in perspective, like he achieved everything he is. 10-time world champion. A legend, an icon in all of the world gitu kan. And to have the motivation to still like be better and always care, you know, working a lot in data, working a lot in his driving, still asking a lot of questions. At age like 44 in some other sport, and I think you understand why he's 10-time world champion. His work ethic, he's so humble. He asked you a lot of questions like if you are better than him somewhere else or whatever. So I got nothing but the absolute respect, and he's an idol to everyone, and so he should gitu. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, benar-benar. Okay, and his persona is the same like you see in TV, you know, very outgoing, very
He looks like a very kind and approachable person gitu. In real life juga kayak gitu.
Yeah, he's just he's amazing. I have not like the best.
Fun banget.
Yeah.
Okay, so kita udah ngomongin jenjang karir lo nih dari lo awal mulai sampai sekarang. But like, what's next? What do you have planned like this year, next year, 5 years?
I think now I'm in a good place. I'm driving for BMW now in the World Endurance Championship, and they've been treating me well, and finally get a manufactured drive kind of thing, you know. So I'm really happy. The World Endurance Championship is a great championship. We're feeling like it's full every race now. Like 100,000 fans every race or something like this. So. And I think if there's anything, obviously I want to be in the hypercar category soon because there's a couple of categories.
Okay.
But I think I'm thankfully in a good place right now, and I want to continue in that. And I, if anything, like goal, like staying in the championship, I guess is that way. But like if I've been 2 times second in the World Championship, and I've been 2 times second in Le Mans.
Man.
So.
That's a great achievement, man. It's like that's big, you know.
It's like the best loser, you know.
Why is it the best loser?
Because you're second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're really good at being second. We're still third in championship this year, and we still have a fight to win the championship. So still 3 races to go, and I think that's our prime target to win.
Okay.
Le Mans passed and we finished second, so we can't do anything but go for next year. But yeah, so I mean it's great. Don't get me wrong, I'm really happy.
That's good. He's really happy. This is his happy face.
But like when you've gone through it a couple of years and you finish second too many times, and you really want to win. You know, like second's not nice.
Second's not enough. You gotta be the first.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, wait. I gotta ask you a little bit more about your journey, just a little bit more. Like, what's the best advice someone has ever given to you, and throughout your whole journey?
Throughout my whole journey?
Yeah, throughout your whole journey.
Okay.
The best advice.
Called being serious. So I think there's 3. So the first one that helped me a lot was so remember why you started. So if you get frustrated, remember why you fell in love with the sport in the first place. So that's always been a good one. And the second one is God grant me the grace to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the difference to know and the wisdom to know the difference. So you can't control what you cannot control. Do the best that you can do with what you have, and then don't dwell or don't worry about other things. I think that's one. And the last one and the best one is learn to say no.
Explain to me. Learn to say no.
Learn to say no. Like, you don't need to make other people happy. You can say no. You can say no to small things. Be clear of what your goals is and be clear of where your target is, and do it for you. So learn to say no.
Learn to say no. Oh, that's such a nice advice.
It's hard actually. Apalagi di Indo. I think it's harder.
Apalagi di Jakarta.
Yeah, because like di sini kan sombong loh, tapi ya maksudnya kan sebenarnya enggak gitu kan.
Iya, kan ada goals yang lebih besar yang ingin dicapai.
Iya, maksudnya kayak ya in the end ya obviously jangan kayak enggak lah gitu, maksudnya kayak yang baik, tapi maksudnya kayak learn to say no doing things.
Tapi berarti gimana cara lo?
Well, actually not this is really great. So I said yes.
Tapi gimana cara lo menjaga keseimbangan nih antara your personal life and then your career? Like how do you manage? Lo pasti sibuk banget kan? Like well 90% of your time it's work, right?
Yeah, and then I have work as well. No, but I think it's just good people around you. I have a great family. I have a great group of friends. I have a very supportive girlfriend. I couldn't ask for more. So I'm just thankful that for the people around me. Itu yang paling penting sebenarnya kayak. Keep you grounded, keep support system.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's really nice. Well, itu adalah perjalanan karir Sean. Sean, thank you so much for being here today.
Makasih ya.
We're like very, very happy with your story, with your advices. Like it's so good.
Yeah, but I still mentally can't do an Ironman. So this guy with 6 major marathons, I can't do that. I could do 24-hour races, but I can't do that.
Tapi kalau misalnya, if you have the time untuk latihan, would you join a marathon or even a race?
A marathon I would do. I don't know if. Jadi sebenarnya cerita paling lucu itu, I never ran more than 10.
Okay.
So during my younger career, I never ran more than 10 until 2023. So 2023, salah satu sponsor aku adalah BNI dan Pak Silvano itu paling sering lari kan. Pak Silvano kan grupnya sama Mas Alit, Mas Indra, Mas semuanya kan. Tahu-tahu nge-trick. Bilang Mas berapa jauh larinya? Oh nggak apa-apa cuma 10 kilo. Oh ya udah aman. Tahu-tahu 18. Bro, gue nggak siap banget untuk 18 kilo. Tahu-tahu 18. Tapi kan masa sebagai atlet tuh lu nggak mungkin kan? Terus abis itu somehow I bought a running shoe, a better one let's say, lebih siap untuk
18
but I've
kilo
always been
gitu ya.
like running short. I'm okay gitu. Kayak 5K I've done it like 19 something, so like it's pace 3, it's fine gitu. Tapi kayak I've never run more than 10 kan. Abis itu, so then I trained a bit. Terus abis itu sekali lagi diundang. Ini sebelum pada waktu itu kalau nggak salah Boston Marathon. Boston Marathon yang tahun lalu. Terus mereka kayak, ayolah, enggak kok, lagi pada recovery run, santai, paling ada yang 10, ada yang 12, santai, paling 15 max. Oke. Terus kayak gak tau lah 24 atau berapa sih, kayak udah mau nangis bro, kaki gue udah gak berasa abis itu kilometer 15.
Dengkul gue sakit banget deh dengernya.
Gue udah kayak what? After that I said I can't look dumb in this. Jadi kayak I was training a lot. So I was training a lot for my pride basically. Okay. And then,
but it did do you well. I mean, you got fitter. You started long endurance run as well. Yeah. It serves you.
Did you know Gabby Thomas, gold medalist in 200 meter sprint, does not, the longest run she's done is 1.6 kilometers, and she does it only once a year. Just perspective.
This is new info for us. Know?
So like I was more short distance, and then suddenly, makanya gue kalau ikut dash itu cuma yang Rabu, yang cuma interval gitu.
Rabu track tribe ya?
Iya, sering. Tapi so it was more that. I think like half marathons I would do easy. The half marathons I enjoy. Full, gue belum pernah latihan. I think the most I've ran was not even 30, 20. Jadi ulang tahun gue ke 27, gue lari 27 kilo.
That's a long distance, man.
Iya long. Tapi maksudnya 27 ke 42 tuh jauh banget.
Itu jauh.
Jadi untuk gue tuh kayak, makanya gue kayak, tapi jujur ya gue paling salut sama siapa? Sama Tara bro. Sumpah, Tara pertama kali dia pergi untuk maraton pertama, gue inget banget. Itu dia kayak nggak bisa lari, terus sekarang dia yang kayak semangatnya nggak masuk akal. Itu gue semangat banget. Itu
keren sih.
Itu kalau dia
nular juga kalau ya energinya.
Jadi dia juga very kayak yang paling gitu kan. Nah tapi itu yang challenge-nya Tara yang berapa kilo di treadmill atau kayak Dito di treadmill, itu gue nggak bisa.
Itu panjang banget
itu
sih.
Itu gue nggak bisa. Even doing 5K in a treadmill, I would shoot myself. The most I've done
on a treadmill
is 5.
It's 5.
And like it has to be intervals.
Yeah.
Or else I'm.
Udah
I can't.
aja. Well,
Mendingan track jauh.
Mendingan track karena bisa ketemu banyak teman baru juga, belajar ada coachnya juga. So it's really nice, guys. It's good bargain.
Bagus.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Ini seru banget. Gue bener-bener gak sabar ini bakal.
Nggak, gue kira tadi pertanyaan tuh yang lebih enteng gitu. Jadi gue udah siap
itu enteng gak sih?
Tapi harus kayak ngelewatin trauma-trauma gue lagi.
We're so sorry for that.
Nggak sorry lah. Maksudnya belum siap. Jadi nggak lucu gitu.
Oh iya nggak apa. Tetap lucu anyway kok.
Jadi agak serius.
Because you're here, everything you do is forgivable. So okay.
Thank you.
Well, Dashers, jangan lupa nonton episodenya. Bisa kalian cek di YouTube-nya Dashboard atau di Spotify juga. We'll see you guys on the next episode. See you.
Bye.
Dadah.